dear friends and dreamers. I want to begin by asking you all a simple question. How many times have you found yourself trapped in your own thoughts, thinking about your dreams, your plans, your goals, but never actually taking that first step towards them? We all do it. We sit there day after day, imagining what could be, and yet we hesitate, we overthink, we doubt ourselves, we worry about what could go wrong, and in the process, we forget one simple truth. Thinking alone will never take us anywhere. It's easy to dream, isn't it? It's easy to have ideas, to imagine a life we want to live, a career we want to build, or a change we want to make. But the true magic lies not in the thoughts we have, but in what we do with them. We spend so much time asking ourselves, what if? What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? But here's the thing. What if it works? What if you succeed? The only way to answer those questions is to stop thinking and start doing. It's in the action where the transformation happens. It's in the first step, the messy beginning, the courage to move forward even when you don't know exactly where you're going. You will never have all the answers, but you can begin with just one step, one decision, one moment of courage. I know what it feels like to stand at the crossroads of doubt and fear, wondering if you're enough, if you're capable. Trust me, I've been there. But I also know that the most powerful moments in life don't come when you have everything figured out. They come when you step out into the unknown, armed with nothing but the will to move forward. It's easy to stay in the safety of your thoughts. It's easy to be comfortable. But comfort never creates change. Only action does. And every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to who you are meant to be. Today, I challenge you. Stop thinking and start doing. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for everything to align. The perfect moment is now. Don't wait for someone else's approval because no one else can live your life for you. Only you can make it happen. Every big achievement, every success story, every dream realized begins with one thing, a decision to act. Don't let your thoughts paralyze you. Don't let them hold you back. Trust yourself enough to take that first step. And when you do, you'll realize that you are more capable than you ever imagined. So stop thinking, start doing, and watch your life transform, one step at a time. There is a common misconception that thinking is the most important part of any endeavor. We often hear the phrase, think before you act. And while there's truth to being thoughtful, the reality is that we can easily become trapped in the cycle of endless thinking. We think, we plan, we analyze, but in the end, thinking doesn't create tangible results. It's action that transforms thoughts into reality. Our minds are powerful, but without action, they remain idle, never fully realizing their potential. We've all been there at some point. We have an idea or a dream, and the excitement bubbles up inside of us. We envision success, we map out a path, and we start to mentally rehearse the steps we need to take. We think about the people we need to meet, the resources we need to gather, the plans we need to make. And then we get stuck. The thoughts pile up, becoming overwhelming. The fear of making mistakes, of failure, of judgment creates a barrier that feels impossible to cross. And so we remain in the realm of thinking, never taking that crucial step to act. But here's the harsh truth. Thinking alone won't make anything happen. It's easy to sit in the comfort of your thoughts, analyzing every detail, trying to ensure that you're making the perfect choice. But perfection doesn't exist in planning. The more you think, the less you actually do, and the further you get from your goal. You might find yourself lost in the intricacies of the plan, waiting for the right moment when everything is perfectly aligned, but that moment never truly comes. The only way to make progress is by moving forward, even if it means doing so imperfectly. The reality of life is that nothing is ever going to be perfect. If we wait for all the pieces to fall into place, we'll find ourselves waiting forever. Success is built on action, on stepping out of your comfort zone, on making the first move and trusting that you'll figure things out as you go. The more you act, the more you learn. Every step you take gives you new information, new perspectives, and new experiences that help you refine your direction. The first attempt might not yield the results you expected, but it will teach you what doesn't work, bringing you one step closer to what will. This is the beauty of action. It's a constant feedback loop. By doing, you gather data, adjust your approach, and try again. In this process, you grow. The act of doing forces you to confront obstacles, overcome challenges, and build resilience, all of which are essential ingredients for success. When you overthink, you miss the opportunity to learn from experience. You stay in your head, imagining all the possible outcomes, but you never experience them firsthand. It's only through doing that you come to understand what works, what doesn't, and how to adapt along the way. Without action, your thoughts remain abstract, and the dream you envision never leaves the realm of imagination. Think about any major achievement or success you've witnessed, whether in business, sports, or personal growth. Behind every success story, there was a person who decided to take action despite the fear, doubt, and uncertainty. They didn't wait for perfect conditions or for the world to tell them it was time. They made the decision to move forward and kept moving even when things didn't go according to plan. Their actions created momentum, and that momentum led to results. They didn't sit around waiting for the right moment. They created their own moment by taking that first step. This is where the magic happens. You see, action breeds confidence. The more you do, the more you realize you are capable of doing. Each small victory, each challenge you overcome reinforces the belief that you can handle whatever comes next. But if you stay in your thoughts, you never get to experience this growth. You remain trapped in the cycle of doubt, unable to build the confidence that comes from real-world experience. Action also opens doors. When you make the decision to act, you're putting yourself out there, and that opens up new opportunities you may have never imagined. Think about the people you admire, the people who have accomplished great things. They didn't sit in their homes overanalyzing every possible outcome. They took action, and by doing so, they found themselves in situations and surrounded by people who helped them along their journey. You can't build relationships, partnerships, or networks by sitting still. The act of doing allows the world to meet you halfway and gives you the chance to tap into resources you may not even know exist. If you find yourself stuck in the cycle of thinking and doubting, it's time to shift your focus. Instead of spending hours thinking about how to do something, start by doing something, anything. Even if it's a small task, the simple act of getting started will break the mental barrier that's holding you back. It's often the first step that's the hardest, but once you take it, you'll begin to see the path ahead more clearly. The key is to take that first action, no matter how small it seems, and build from there. Of course, this doesn't mean acting without thought. You don't want to be reckless or impulsive, but there is a difference between being thoughtful and being paralyzed by overthinking. Planning is important, but planning without execution is meaningless. Your plan should always be paired with action, with real-world effort to move towards your goal. When you plan, you are visualizing the steps, but when you act, you are creating the reality. When you act, you're also embracing imperfection. There will be mistakes, failures, and setbacks along the way. But every failure is a lesson in disguise. It's the knowledge you gain from doing that teaches you how to navigate obstacles and refine your approach. Without failure, there is no growth. The key is not to fear failure, but to embrace it as part of the process. Action allows you to learn from those failures and continue moving forward, one step at a time. It's easy to get stuck in your head, imagining all the reasons why something won't work, why you're not good enough, or why you're not ready. But the truth is, no one ever feels completely ready. There's always an element of risk involved, and that's what makes it exciting. The fear of the unknown can be daunting, but it's also what makes action so powerful. It forces you to move past your doubts and take that leap, trusting that you'll figure things out along the way. When you stop overthinking and start acting, you're giving yourself permission to fail and to grow. The act of doing is a declaration that you are ready to embrace the journey, regardless of how uncertain it may seem. Every step you take moves you closer to the person you're meant to become, and every step forward is a step away from the fear that has been holding you back. When you find yourself caught in the cycle of overthinking, remember, the most important thing you can do is take action. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because it may never come. Don't wait for all the answers, because you'll never have them all. The only way to move forward is by doing. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to start. The unknown is often seen as something to fear. It's a space where there are no guarantees, no clear answers, and no defined path. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if instead of seeing the unknown as something dangerous or threatening, we saw it as an opportunity for growth, adventure, and discovery? This shift in thinking is the key to embracing the unknown and using it as a stepping stone toward progress. Every moment in life holds uncertainty. Every decision, every opportunity, every risk involves a degree of the unknown. Yet, we spend so much time trying to control the unknown. We want certainty, we want to know what's coming next, and we want a roadmap to guide us through every possible scenario. But here's the truth. Life doesn't work that way. There is no perfect plan, no foolproof path. The unknown will always be a part of the journey, and the more we try to avoid it, the less we truly live. When we fear the unknown, we hold ourselves back. We hesitate, we second-guess ourselves, and we wait for everything to align perfectly before we make a move. But the reality is, we will never have all the answers, and there will never be a moment when everything is perfectly aligned. The beauty of life is in its unpredictability, in its ability to surprise us and take us places we never thought possible. We cannot control what will happen next, but we can control how we respond to it. To embrace the unknown means to let go of the need for complete control. It means acknowledging that no matter how much we plan, life will unfold in ways we cannot predict. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's essential. It's through stepping into the unknown that we learn who we truly are. We discover strengths we never knew we had. We uncover opportunities that we never thought possible. And we meet people who shape our journey in unexpected ways. One of the most powerful things about the unknown is that it forces us to step outside of our comfort zones. When we know what to expect, we feel safe. We know how to react. We know the rules. And we can anticipate the outcome. But when we don't know what's coming next, it challenges us. It stretches us, pushes us to think on our feet, to be resourceful, to adapt. In the unknown, we find our true potential. It's easy to remain comfortable, to stay within the boundaries of what we know. But real growth happens in the spaces where we don't have all the answers. The unknown also teaches us to trust ourselves. When we venture into unfamiliar territory, we are forced to rely on our instincts, our judgment, and our abilities. We may not know exactly what will happen, but we can trust that we have the resilience to handle whatever comes our way. And with every step we take, we build that trust in ourselves. Each decision, no matter how small, is an affirmation of our strength, our resourcefulness, and our capacity to navigate uncertainty. Another benefit of embracing the unknown is that it opens up new possibilities. When we limit ourselves to what we already know, we close ourselves off from experiences that could change our lives. We stay stuck in the same patterns, following the same routines, and never challenging ourselves to try something new. But the unknown is full of possibility. When we take that first step into uncertainty, we are opening ourselves to new opportunities, new experiences, and new ways of thinking. We may stumble, we may falter, but we are also giving ourselves the chance to discover something greater than we ever imagined. The fear of the unknown often stems from a fear of failure. We worry that if we step into unfamiliar territory, we'll make mistakes, we'll fall short, or we'll be judged. But what if we saw failure not as something to fear, but as something to learn from? Every time we step into the unknown, we are not guaranteed success, but we are guaranteed growth. Failure is not the end, it's simply a lesson. It's through making mistakes that we learn what works, what doesn't, and how to adapt. Without failure, there is no progress. It's in the unknown that we discover our capacity to rise after falling, to persevere despite challenges, and to keep going even when things don't go as planned. The unknown is also where the magic happens. Think about the moments in your life that have shaped you the most. Were they moments of comfort and certainty? Or were they moments where you took a leap of faith? Where you stepped into something you had never experienced before? It's in those moments of uncertainty, when you don't have all the answers and the outcome is unclear, that you find the courage to push yourself beyond your limits. You may not know exactly where the path leads, but when you look back, you realize that those moments were the ones that defined you, the ones that push you to grow in ways you never expected. Embracing the unknown is not easy. It requires courage, vulnerability, and the willingness to let go of control. But it is essential to moving forward in life. If we constantly hold ourselves back, waiting for the perfect time, for the perfect plan, we miss out on the opportunities that lie just beyond the horizon. The unknown is not something to be feared. It's something to be embraced. It's where growth happens, where opportunities unfold, and where we discover the strength and resilience we never knew we had. The next time you find yourself standing at the edge of the unknown, take a deep breath and step forward. Trust yourself, trust the process, and trust that the journey ahead will be worth it. The unknown is not something to fear. It's an invitation to grow, to learn, and to become the person you are meant to be. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions that can hold us back from taking action and moving forward in life. It's a natural response to uncertainty, and it often appears when we are about to step outside of our comfort zones or face something unknown. The problem with fear, however, is that it can paralyze us. It stops us from pursuing our goals, from trying new things, and from stepping into the potential that lies just beyond our comfort zone. The truth is, fear doesn't have to be something that controls us. Instead, we can learn how to manage it, push through it, and use it as a catalyst for growth and change. At its core, fear is a survival mechanism. It's built into us as human beings, designed to protect us from danger. It's the emotion that keeps us alert, makes us cautious, and helps us avoid situations that could cause harm. But the problem arises when fear is triggered by things that don't actually pose a threat to our safety, like taking a risk in our career, starting a new project, or even speaking in public. These types of fears are not life-threatening, yet they can have a powerful impact on our decisions and the actions we take. When fear takes hold of us, we tend to overestimate the risks involved in what we are considering. We imagine the worst-case scenario, and in doing so, we paralyze ourselves from taking the first step. This is where the cycle of fear begins. We think about the potential failure, the possible rejection, the embarrassment, or the judgment from others, and we convince ourselves that it's better to stay where we are, safe and secure in the known, rather than venturing into the unknown. The more we think about it, the more real the fear becomes, and the harder it is to move past it. But what if we learn to look at fear differently? What if, instead of avoiding it, we acknowledge it and understood that it is not something that has to control us? Fear is not an enemy. It's a signal. It's an indication that we are about to do something important, something that matters. The more significant the goal or change, the more fear we may feel. That's because fear often accompanies growth. It's the feeling we experience when we are stepping outside of our comfort zone and expanding ourselves into new territory. And while fear might never completely disappear, we can learn to manage it and move forward despite it. One of the first things to understand about fear is that it's often much bigger in our minds than it is in reality. We imagine all the things that could go wrong and we blow them out of proportion, creating a narrative that may not even be close to the truth. The fact is, most of the time, our fears are based on assumptions rather than facts. We fear rejection, but what if the outcome is better than we expected? We fear failure, but what if that failure is actually an opportunity to learn and grow? In many cases, fear is simply our mind's way of protecting us from perceived risks that may never materialize. When we recognize this, we can begin to question whether the fear is justified or whether it is something we can move past. Another important aspect of overcoming fear is realizing that we don't have to eliminate it entirely in order to move forward. Fear doesn't have to disappear for us to take action. In fact, the most successful people are often those who feel fear but don't let it stop them. They understand that fear is a part of the process and they use it to fuel their determination. They don't wait for the fear to go away. They act in spite of it. This is where courage comes in. Not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act even when fear is present. Courage is not about being fearless. It's about moving forward in spite of fear, taking that step even when you don't know what's on the other side. To manage fear, it helps to break things down into smaller steps. When we look at a big goal or challenge, it can feel overwhelming, and that's when fear tends to take over. But if we focus on the very next step, the one thing we can do right now, the task becomes more manageable. By breaking down a larger goal into smaller, achievable actions, we reduce the power of fear. It becomes less intimidating when we focus on the immediate action rather than the entire journey. This allows us to build momentum and gain confidence with each small success. Another strategy for overcoming fear is to reframe the way we think about failure. Often, fear holds us back because we fear failure and all the negative emotions we associate with it. But failure is not the end. It's part of the process of growth. Every successful person has failed at some point, and many of them failed multiple times before they succeeded. Failure is not a reflection of our worth or abilities. It's simply feedback. It's an opportunity to learn, to improve, and to adjust our approach. When we begin to see failure as a stepping stone rather than an obstacle, fear loses some of its power. We no longer see failure as something to be avoided at all costs, but as something to be embraced as part of the journey. Another important factor in overcoming fear is to have a clear vision of what we want to achieve. Fear often arises when we don't have a clear sense of direction or purpose. We feel uncertain about the path ahead, and that uncertainty breeds fear. But when we know what we want and why we want it, fear becomes more manageable. A clear vision gives us the motivation to push through the discomfort and take action, even when fear is present. It becomes the driving force that keeps us moving forward, even in the face of uncertainty. When we are clear on our goals, fear doesn't have the power to hold us back as much. It's important to surround ourselves with people who support and encourage us. Fear can feel isolating, especially when we face it alone. But when we have a support system, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or colleagues, we are reminded that we are not alone in our struggles. We can share our fears, talk through our concerns, and receive encouragement from others who have faced similar challenges. This community of support can provide the reassurance and strength we need to take the next step despite our fears. Starting small is one of the most powerful approaches to achieving significant change. It's easy to become overwhelmed when we think about large goals or big dreams. The enormity of the task ahead can stop us before we even begin. We imagine all the work that's involved, all the steps we need to take, and all the obstacles that may arise along the way. This can lead to paralysis. But by focusing on taking small, manageable steps, we allow ourselves to make steady progress, building momentum and confidence along the way. The power of starting small lies in its simplicity, and it's often the key to unlocking larger accomplishments over time. One of the main reasons why starting small is so effective is that it removes the overwhelming pressure that often accompanies big goals. When we set a large goal for ourselves, it's easy to get caught up in how far we have to go, how many obstacles we might face, and how much effort will be required. This can cause us to procrastinate, to delay taking action, or to give up entirely before we even try. But when we break the goal down into smaller, more manageable tasks, we can focus on the next step in front of us rather than the entire journey. Each small action becomes a building block toward the larger goal, and it allows us to celebrate progress along the way. Instead of feeling daunted by the size of the challenge, we feel empowered by the small victories that accumulate over time. Taking small steps also allows us to build confidence and create a sense of accomplishment. When we take on a massive task all at once, it can be easy to get discouraged when things don't go as planned or when we encounter setbacks. However, when we focus on one small step at a time, we are able to see immediate results. This sense of progress is motivating. It reinforces the belief that we can handle what comes next, and it gives us the confidence to continue moving forward. The smaller the task, the more likely we are to complete it. Each small success gives us the momentum to tackle the next challenge, no matter how big it may seem. Furthermore, starting small allows us to learn and adapt along the way. When we set out to achieve something large, we might have an ideal vision of how things will unfold. But in reality, the journey is rarely linear. There will be bumps in the road, unexpected detours, and lessons learned along the way. Starting with small steps allows us to experiment, make mistakes, and learn from them. With each small action we take, we gain valuable feedback that can help us refine our approach and make adjustments. This process of learning and adapting is crucial to long-term success. The smaller the steps, the easier it is to correct our course without feeling as though we've wasted significant time or energy. In addition to building confidence and learning along the way, starting small helps us maintain motivation and avoid burnout. Big goals can be daunting, and it's easy to get discouraged when progress feels slow. When we aim for huge outcomes right away, we can often overlook the small successes along the way, which can lead to frustration. But by focusing on smaller tasks and celebrating each completed step, we create a sense of progress and accomplishment. These small wins keep us motivated and remind us that every effort counts. We don't need to achieve everything at once. It's the steady, consistent effort over time that leads to big results. One of the greatest benefits of starting small is that it helps us overcome the fear of failure. When we're working towards something large and undefined, the fear of failing can paralyze us. We worry that one misstep could set us back completely. But by breaking the goal down into smaller, less intimidating steps, we reduce the stakes. Each small action becomes less about achieving perfection and more about learning and growing through the process. Failure doesn't feel as catastrophic when it's just a small part of a much larger picture. And with each small step, we gain more experience and become better equipped to handle challenges, making future setbacks feel less intimidating. Starting small also allows us to be more flexible in our approach. It's easy to become rigid in our thinking when we set a large goal and commit ourselves to a specific plan of action. But life is unpredictable, and the path we envision at the beginning may not be the path we end up taking. When we start small, we give ourselves the space to be flexible and adapt to new information and circumstances. We don't have to be so attached to one specific outcome or timeline. Instead, we can take each step as it comes, adjusting and refining our approach as needed. This flexibility makes it easier to deal with setbacks, changes in direction, and unexpected opportunities. Another advantage of starting small is that it makes it easier to maintain consistency. Often, it's not a lack of ability that holds us back, but a lack of consistency. Big goals can be overwhelming, and when we try to tackle them all at once, we may find ourselves losing motivation or burning out. But by breaking the task down into small, daily actions, we make it easier to stay consistent. The key to success is not in taking massive leaps every day, but in maintaining small, consistent steps toward our goal. Over time, these small actions add up to significant progress. Starting small is not about being less ambitious or settling for mediocrity. It's about being strategic and intentional with our efforts. It's about giving ourselves the grace to take one step at a time and recognizing that progress, no matter how small, is still progress. Big changes happen over time, not all at once. The process of starting small gives us the patience and persistence we need to see our goals through to the end. By focusing on the small tasks, the day-to-day actions that build up to something bigger, we create the foundation for lasting success. When we approach our goals by starting small, we set ourselves up for success. We make the process manageable, build our confidence, learn along the way, and stay motivated. Every small step brings us closer to the larger goal, and every small success propels us forward. Starting small is the key to making big dreams a reality. It's not about taking giant leaps or achieving perfection. It's about taking consistent, intentional action, one small step at a time. Consistency is often the overlooked secret to success. In a world where instant gratification is often prioritized, we tend to believe that success should come quickly or easily. We see the result, the big win, and think that it's the end of a straightforward journey. What we often fail to see, however, is the consistent effort that has been put in behind the scenes, long before the public recognition or the visible achievement. Success isn't just about talent or intelligence. It's about the ability to show up every single day, do the work, and keep going, even when the results aren't immediately apparent. Consistency over time creates the compound effect that leads to extraordinary results. One of the reasons consistency is so powerful is that it builds momentum. When we take small, deliberate actions every day, even on days when we don't feel like it, we begin to create momentum that carries us forward. The early days of any new endeavor can be difficult. The results may not be visible, the progress may feel slow, and the work may feel repetitive or tedious. But with consistent effort, what begins as a small, almost imperceptible movement eventually gains speed. Momentum takes over, and the work starts to feel easier and more natural. Without consistency, there's no chance to build this momentum, and without momentum, achieving success becomes far more difficult. Consistency also helps us build discipline. It's easy to give up or procrastinate when things feel hard or when the results aren't showing up immediately. But when we commit to showing up day after day, regardless of how we feel, we cultivate discipline. Discipline isn't about waiting until we feel motivated or inspired. It's about making the decision to do the work no matter what. When we practice discipline consistently, it becomes a habit, a part of who we are. And eventually, the work doesn't feel like a chore anymore. It becomes ingrained in our routine, and we do it automatically, without much thought or resistance. Moreover, consistency allows us to improve incrementally. We are often our own worst critics, and in a world that praises overnight success, we tend to dismiss the slow, incremental improvements that come from consistent effort. But it's in the small, steady improvements over time that mastery is achieved. Just like the process of learning a new skill, the early stages often feel frustrating. We don't see ourselves getting better, and we might feel like we're not making much progress at all. However, with each small action, we get a little better, a little closer to where we want to be. The key is to continue showing up, even when we don't see immediate results. Over time, these small improvements compound, leading to remarkable progress. Consistency also builds resilience. In any worthwhile pursuit, we will face setbacks. There will be moments when things don't go as planned, when we fail, when we feel discouraged. But it's in those moments that consistency becomes our greatest asset. When we've built the habit of showing up day in and day out, we develop the resilience to keep going, even when things aren't going perfectly. The work itself may be challenging, and the results may not be as quick as we hope, but consistency gives us the strength to push through the difficulties. Each time we show up, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of handling adversity and that we are not defined by our setbacks. Another benefit of consistency is that it helps us stay focused. Life can be full of distractions, and it's easy to get sidetracked by new opportunities or the excitement of starting something fresh. We might jump from one project to another, never fully committing to one thing long enough to see it through. But consistency allows us to stay focused on what matters. It's about keeping our eyes on the long-term goal, even when distractions or challenges arise. When we are consistent, we are able to maintain our focus on the task at hand, allowing us to make steady progress toward our ultimate vision. Moreover, consistency builds trust. Trust is a key component of any relationship, whether personal or professional. And it's no different when it comes to the relationship we have with our goals. When we consistently show up for ourselves, we begin to trust that we can rely on ourselves to do the work. We know that, regardless of how we feel on any given day, we will continue to move forward, even if the progress is slow. This trust builds confidence, which in turn fuels our motivation to keep going. Others also notice consistency, whether in business, sports, or personal relationships. Showing up consistently builds trust with others, allowing us to build stronger networks and foster deeper connections. When we embrace consistency, we also reduce the need for perfection. Perfectionism is often a trap that can paralyze us from taking action. We think that we need everything to be perfect before we can proceed, and because we never feel ready, we delay starting or stop halfway through. But consistency doesn't require perfection. It just requires steady effort, day after day. By showing up consistently, we take the pressure off ourselves to be flawless, allowing us to learn from our mistakes and improve along the way. Progress becomes the goal, not perfection, and the journey itself becomes more important than the end result. Consistency also helps to break down overwhelming goals into manageable chunks. When we look at a huge goal, it can be easy to become overwhelmed by the size of the task ahead. It's hard to see how we can ever accomplish something so big. But consistency allows us to take that big goal and break it down into smaller, more achievable actions. Instead of trying to do everything at once, we focus on taking the next small step. Over time, these small actions add up, and what once seemed impossible becomes entirely achievable.